Hello, everyone, and welcome back to At Home with Iris. I hope you all have been doing well. We are in the month of December, and we recently passed celebrating the Hmong New Year. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves and spending the holidays with your loved ones. Today, I have a really special guest here with me, somebody that I have looked up to and has helped guide me throughout my life, and somebody that I hold really close to my heart. So, my mom is here with me. You can say hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Okay, today is going to be an episode strictly audio, so feel free to listen in as you go on throughout your day and enjoy the show. I want to focus this episode on what it's like to grow up as a Hmong woman in the United States. I'm going to be asking her to cover her experiences and then also compare and contrast my experiences as somebody who was born in the United States. I feel like we might have more similarities than we think, but also knowing that it's coming from two different perspectives, two different age categories, I think there's a lot to learn from both of us. So I'm really excited for you all to learn more about my mom's experiences, and hopefully we can tie that into what it's like to be a Hmong woman here in the United States today. So, my first question is, Mom, can you tell us about when you first came to the United States?
Sure. If I remember right, I think we came in November of 1992. I recall not knowing what the airplane looks like. All I remember is walking right into ramp and then sitting down, and all of a sudden you hear engine, and it was like, "What's that loud noise?" And it's like, "Hey, we're all in the air already." I have motion sickness, so I slept throughout most of the
Even as
ride.
a kid, oh my goodness.
Even as a kid. So while we got here, it was really cold. Then in November, it was snowing already.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, what is this white thing? We didn't know that it was snow.
So you experienced snow for the first time. That's amazing.
Yes, yeah. So overall, I love the summer weather. I love warm weather. And then
Yeah.
to come here all this time, I feel like I have never adapted to the cold weather.
Yeah, even still, huh?
Yes.
And it seems like from the get-go, you already had to adapt so much as a child. And then I'm sure like the environment and the culture too, it must have just been such a shock for you. What were other things about the American culture, like maybe the food or the way that you saw people living that you saw were different while you were younger?
So I have always been a picky eater. So
Oh,
with food, it's so hard to adjust. But I think what I can adjust most is fries.
oh yeah. What helped you adjust the most was eating fries.
Yes, yes. I think that it's the texture of it overall, the taste, the smell. I just can't adjust to it.
Of American food.
Of American
I
food.
see.
And then on top of that, not knowing any English.
So how did you end up learning English while growing up?
By going to school every day, it's really hard going to the bathroom. You can't even tell the teacher you're going to the
Oh my
bathroom.
gosh.
The moment when they see that you're walking out the door, they're just assuming
That
that
you
you're
have to
going to the
go.
bathroom.
And so the language barrier, when do you think that stopped being a barrier for you?
So I was also a shy kid
Mm.
growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it took me about 3 years just for me to adjust to know the basic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, English is like one of the hardest language. So I feel like I'm still struggling nowadays.
Is there anything else that you want us to know about what your experience was like when you came to the United States?
I think one last thing would be it's hard. It's hard, but then wherever you live, you can adapt to it. It might not be easy, but slowly and surely it will come
Mhm.
through.
I was thinking about how grandma and like the older parents too, a lot of them still speak Hmong today. That's like their primary language. And so when you've grown to adulthood of learning a certain culture and then having to adapt and assimilate to another one, I feel like it's a lot harder too. So coming when you're young, I feel like that is somewhat helpful. And then for me, being born here in the United States, this is all I know. I feel like I know more about the American culture than what I know about the Hmong culture. And that might be unfortunate, but we're still learning so much about it today and like still trying to make connections even though we live in a community that practices culture so differently. So I know that it took a long time for the Hmong people to settle down in the United States and become more comfortable within the new environment. So I wanted to ask you, when did you start noticing opportunities for the Hmong people to engage in the community and start building opportunities for themselves?
So, like I said before, coming to the United States back in 1992, 92 and 93, we are one of the last group to come. So then one of the most recent group was in 1975 already. So some of them were having the opportunity to create and have Hmong organizations around in a popular area where Hmong settles already.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, we only have one ALL teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but once I think we hit into the 2000s, 2001, 2002, after where they said that the earth was gonna like crash or
They say that every 20 years or something, I swear.
yeah, so something along that line. In I would say in the 2000s, I see that Hmong people have more open doors, more opportunities comparing to when we first got here. Nowadays, we have doctors and lawyers. Even
Mm-hmm.
in our small communities, we see that there's more opportunities for everybody. We know resources.
Right.
Mhm.
I think also our history of constantly having to defend ourselves too, that probably stuck with us for like a good, I feel like 10 years from the time that we first settled into the United States. And so, when did you first start participating in organizations or feeling like you had a place in the Hmong community to represent yourself?
So in the early 2000s, I started participating in the Hmong radio with Siu Yang.
Mm-hmm.
He started this program a long time ago, but then we have the opportunity to join him. And then after that, we got involved in the Hmong community.
For the Hmong New Year, huh?
Yeah, along with fashion shows, having the opportunity to be a part of it, and then after to coordinate.
Yes, that's amazing. There's so many things to celebrate in our culture. And so that's why one of my favorite celebrations to participate in is the Hmong New Year as well. It just reminds me too of how proud I am and how far we have come, especially because we had recently celebrated our 50th anniversary being in the United States too. The reason why I also love to volunteer and participate in Hmong organizations like I have in the past in high school and throughout college was because I saw you actively participating in a lot of things Hmong organization related too. So, without you even knowing, you have been an inspiration for me wanting to serve the Hmong community back, and I'm hoping to still dive into it more in volunteering ways through this podcast, just however we can in our own style. Within the Hmong culture and the American culture, there are gender roles and expectations that exist between each one. And so I was wondering what you thought about having a role as a Hmong woman and how that might differ from the opportunities or the type of lifestyle that you live compared to the Hmong men that exist. Because in the Hmong culture, I feel like it is very predominant that there are different roles for each gender. So I wanted to ask what your thoughts are on that.
So I believe that general, when it has a certain specifics related to it or label to it,
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we don't abuse it to a certain extent, I think general itself is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I was very fortunate to have the opportunities to live nowadays in the modern days to experience what's happening now and then comparing it to how I lived back then. I would say that gender roles is very strict within our community, within the Hmong beliefs, the Hmong religion, Hmong
Yeah.
culture itself. Gender roles, for example, me as a woman, I can never do any activities after school. I can never be involved in anything other than to go to school and come back home,
Right.
clean and cook, do homework, and then repeat. My parents says I shouldn't be able to participate in soccer because
Right.
soccers are only for boys. At times, it is hard to absorb that,
Right.
but then also to understand that parents has a certain belief, certain practice.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, like I said, I'm very fortunate to still continue what I love, to be able to still play sports and continue to support my kids in
Yes.
that. I think that gender roles back then was just very specific, where boys are to do certain stuff and girls are to do certains, and it cannot be cross.
Uh-huh.
Guys who never cooked or cleaned. And sometimes when I think of it, I would be like, it's not fair.
Right.
Overall, it's like, yeah, nothing is fair. But what's fair? They take out the trash and we don't.
They have to kill pig. They have to do all the big, like, heavy lifting stuff too.
Yeah.
And then women do a lot of the cooking and preparing, cleaning.
Mhm.
So I could see where you're coming from.
Yeah, so even nowadays, yes, we still practice that, but still have the opportunity to do other activities.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it has crossed a little bit. Growing up, I felt very similar in that there were certain expectations for me to make sure that there is food for the family after school, but those lessons have helped me become the person that I am today. And even though I thought it might have been unfair while I was growing up, I mean, it made me a better person today, right? So I do sometimes wonder what it would be like and like what kind of opportunities I would have if I was a boy. But I know that there are certain expectations for guys too. I think growing up as a Hmong woman in the United States, a lot of it I feel like was comparison when my friends didn't have to do the same things that my parents were expecting me to do too. Then it made me feel confused and like it was unfair. Now, growing older, I feel like I've realized that it is part of our culture and I would pass down many of those same aspects that I learned to my own kids in the future too. Do you think that's something that you're trying to do for us?
Yes, I think that that is definitely something that I try to do. Overall, like I said, when I was a kid, I think it's unfair and same as you. But nowadays, I'm so grateful that that is what we have and that's what I can carry on.
Mm-hmm. The next topic that I wanted to talk about deals more with family cycles and what it is like to experience a broken family and how you have learned from that, and also how you have worked to heal yourself from that too. I know that you grew up in a family where your parents eventually split, and that is something that we can both relate on too, but I wanted to ask what that was like for you specifically.
So I would say if this is going to happen, I know that it happens for a good reason, but if I can choose the time for them to split, I would rather have them to split while I was younger.
Mm.
But also, I think that it's good now looking back that they split while I was in my mid-teens.
Mm-hmm.
I have the, opportunities to see what they're going through, to understand my feelings, to see what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think overall, going back to the gender roles and going back to how we Hmong practice, I think that it built me into just a stronger person
Mm-hmm.
where I use it as if that situation didn't happen for whatever reason, I wouldn't be the person I am today simply because I would still be a kid at that time. I will still act like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think at that moment, it makes me feel like I have to force myself, hey, now when my mom is not home, I am now the adult of the house. So
Mm-hmm.
there's more responsibilities on my plate that I just have to be responsible for.
Yeah.
So I feel that overall, that experience was a great experience.
I can relate to what you're saying too. I think there is some type of sadness that does happen because ideally any child would want their parents to be together, but then eventually as you grow older you realize that things do work better when people are apart too. I do agree that it does force you to grow up a little bit more. When my parents split too, I had my younger brother to take care of as well, and I think that made me into a really mindful and caring person. And I think it's just going through something like that helps you learn how to persevere through the adversities that you don't really expect, because as a child, you can't choose for that to happen or not. Like, it does just happen to you. And sometimes I feel like I see how it affects how I choose to live today. And then who knows what also might happen in the future too, because my parents split, but then my dad met you. And I remember one of the first impressions that I had of you was that you were so pretty. And I told you so many times, I was like, wow, you're cool. So I was perfectly fine with you hanging around. And now, like, I view you so closely to the mother figure that you have served in my life. Even though you're not my biological mother, we still carry a lot of the same characteristics, personalities, and that is something that I'm grateful to carry on in my own life too. And I do think that it's pretty cool that you came from a broken family yourself and you had the courage to come in and complete a family that was missing exactly what we needed and what you could provide for us.
Oh, thank you for that. That means a lot. I do want to talk more along that line, knowing that we cannot choose, but sometimes it's good to live in a split home more so than to live in a toxic environment.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, even recently, we heard about murder, suicide here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So when things doesn't work out, you can't really choose. So sometimes it's good to just go your separate ways and make something out of it more so than to be under the same roof and having a toxic relationship.
Right, because that sometimes can hurt the family more. With your experience working as an advocate for the Hmong community in our hometown, what is your opinion when things like that happen?
In a perfect world, I think that it will be if we can adapt. I wouldn't say that any other culture will be better than ours, but I would say that it's okay if we know that when a relationship doesn't work out anymore, it's okay to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier said than done, seriously.
Yeah, and there are obviously going to be so many other repercussions. And I know you've helped women go through the court system to help them work through what that process of going through a divorce or a split is like. I feel like this is a symbol of women learning to stand up for themselves, advocate for their rights and their mental health and how it affects them and the kids in general. And so I feel like that's, if anything, a step toward tuning into your own self, but it might also be a step away from the traditions of the Hmong culture too. And maybe that's the impact that we have had while living in America.
Yeah, so I'm really gonna emphasize that yes, it's harder said than done.
For sure.
But for sure, there are resources out there that can help navigate through, and just know that you're not alone.
Mm-hmm. In the past, have you encountered Hmong individuals that seek help for other things like homelessness? What other things do they kind of come in for?
So yes, with a homelessness, it's not just that alone,
Okay.
but having to be homelessness because they are running away
Oh,
from a relationship from a different town or a different state.
I see.
Hmm.
It's really cool that you're making these impacts on the gender roles and ideas of what our cultural expectations are supposed to be too. I feel like there still is never going to be enough resources for everyone, but one person at a time, that does make a difference. So, Mom, if you could give one message to any Hmong girl or woman listening right now, what would you say to her?
I would say take the time to love yourself, make yourself a priority, embrace yourself, and just be who you are.
I like that because Hmong girls, they can get so caught up in the expectations of them, maybe. It is super important to engage in relationships with the people surrounding you, either if that's like a boyfriend or with your siblings, your parents. The Hmong culture prioritizes an overall group's goals instead of an individual person's goals. And so I definitely agree that it is an important thing to be able to know who you are outside of what you do for your family. Honestly, for me, I feel like I have just recently started to tune into the person that I am. Now, tuning into more of my personal characteristics, I think that has helped me gain more confidence in the type of woman that I want to represent in the Hmong community. So, as we wrap up this podcast, I wanted to ask if there is anything that you're currently working on in your own life, either a personal goal, if you're working on any projects, or just something that you're trying to improve on moving forward. I guess because the year is coming to an end too, if you think about any goals that you have for yourself this upcoming year.
I think this upcoming years, the goal is to just spend more times with the family,
Mm-hmm.
enjoying each other's company. As we get older, our times are limited. We don't know how our health is going to be. So just focus on having good health and spending more time with families.
Mm-hmm. And with everything that you juggle, motherhood, work, being involved in the community, how do you take care of yourself? I know, right?
When we were young, we don't appreciate naps. I think how I celebrate myself is whenever I have time, I will try to, take a power nap.
Mm-hmm. That's me right now too. As you get older, oh my gosh, those things are lifesavers. And yeah, I feel like I never really saw you as like a materialistic person either. At least in our household, I think we're really like home-driven people. Like we love to just do things at home. And honestly, I feel like that is something that has helped reground myself too, coming back home from college. I definitely understand where you're coming from, where like taking care of yourself can just be simple things like that as long as you're in the comfort of your own home. Mom, thank you for being here and for sharing so honestly with me. I feel like I've learned a lot about you, and I'm excited to see what our listeners have to say about the conversations that we had. Before we end, I do this thing called words of affirmation for the day. It's basically just a phrase that I'm going to say, and then we can repeat together 3 times. I think we have talked about a lot of topics that Hmong women can relate about. And now, at least for me, looking into this upcoming year, I'm hoping to focus on how I can show up better for people. But I think that starts with me learning how to take care of myself and pay attention to the things that I need and how to heal my own traumas that have happened in the past so that they don't affect my present self right now. So, the words of affirmation today are I'm capable of creating my own healing. Let's repeat that 2 more times, okay?
Uh,
If we say it out loud and speak it into existence, then we can make it possible, you know?
mhm,
Okay, ready?
mhm.
I am
I'm
capable
capable
of
of
creating
creating
my
my
own
own
healing.
healing.
One more time. I am
I'm
capable
capable
of
of
creating
creating
my
my
own
own healing.
healing. All right. Even though there are things that happen to us, it just depends on how we move forward with it. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Mom, for joining me. I had a wonderful time talking with you, and kudos to all the Hmong women in the world. I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you again, Mom, for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
All right, everybody, I will see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye, love you.